Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Skeleton Knight, Season 2.
Yep, Skeleton Knight, Season 2, Episode 3. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more Anime Night in the dojo. And, well, last time we had two lovebirds. That was something. That was a classic trope. But now we're moving on to whatever Ark's next side quest is that's going to get him sidetracked from doing what he's supposed to be doing is relative, because this is just a, weird situation. He's supposed to be getting uncursed. That's like the main thing. But, he can do whatever he wants. And, well, he wanted to live a quiet, peaceful life and not, get involved in anything. Not be too noticed, and yet he's off making Toguro creators and getting involved in politics and resurrecting princesses and stuff like that. So, so much for keeping a low profile, am I right? So, whatever may come, we'll just have to see. You can infer a reasonable amount of stuff from the OP and the ED, stuff like that. But, we'll just have to see where it goes. The first two episodes were still very Skeleton Knight, still very good, and, I assume the overarching story for this season will be like Chiyome's village and or stuff like that because of the OP and the ED. So we'll just have to see where it goes. So we're still in wait and see town. Not really a huge amount we can speculate on. So yeah, at least there isn't a gacha game spoiling stuff weeks before it should. In this thing's case. So we're going to push some buttons and get going, so people on Patreon will see on the other side of the edit for the time reaction, and people on YouTube beyond will see on the other side for the discussion and review. All the links are down there. Check them out. Watch whatever you feel like, and we appreciate it. So here goes some. Well, alrighty then, there you guys have it. I swear he was going to just, don the Assassin's Creed armor and just swan dive off into a pile of hay or something. I mean, for anybody who's played any of the Assassin's Creed games, I don't. To be fair, I don't know much about the newer ones. I don't know if the new characters do that. But back in the day, with freaking Altair and Ezio, they would climb stuff like this, and then you jump off. It was part of a thing that you did for the game.
Yeah, as far as I know, they never got rid of the freaking...
what are they called? Leaps of Faith or something?
Yeah, Leap of Faith. As far as I know, they never got rid of it. Though I do believe it became less prevalent as they started getting into other, regions and stuff like that. Like the Egypt one doesn't have very many of it because, Egypt doesn't exactly build very vertical structures in freaking that time period that they were doing that game in.
Yeah. So either way, that was kind of a funny thing to call out. But performances like this, we talked about a little bit at the end of the reaction. There was maybe in their era it's acceptable, but in our era, you have to get permission to do this, otherwise it's very illegal.
I mean, they could very well have permission to do this anyway, seeing as they seem to be one of the bigger tourist attractions of the town,
right? And
everyone knows about them,
right? And well, for all we know, he got involved with the slave traders after his sister got hurt, so it's not like they are the ones who are shelling out permission for them. It's using their act as a vehicle to kidnap more people in broad daylight, which mind-boggling. Literal broad daylight, not even like a Twilight Hour show where it's a little bit dark and people are having a problem seeing. That was like high noon. You know what I mean? And the kid is not acting suspicious at all. He's just up on the tower pointing and saying nothing. It's like, so let me get this straight. Your distraction is also your scout?
I think that was more of a one-off thing of that's not something that he usually does, but he has the extra thing of if you see someone particularly noteworthy, point them out to us.
Yeah, I suppose.
Since he'd have a much better vantage on the crowd.
Yeah. But either way, it's one of those things that's just kind of like broad daylight. You know what I mean? It's just anybody would be looking around instead of just like hyper fixated on him. Like I said, it's like, so why are there just like four dudes in full, cloak and hood just kind of rolling around? They're not suspicious or anything, right? Maybe we should tell the town guard. No, I mean, this is apparently a major trade hub, so you would think there would be guards abound, considering you'd want to be able to protect a trade route, especially one as potentially as important as this, where it's the only town that trades with Limbold, the freaking elf capital or town, whatever it is. I don't think it's the capital, but it's like one of the towns on the outskirts of human territory or whatever that is. But
yeah, it's not like the capital. Like it's just the elves, from what we've seen, don't really have a like established government per se. They just kind of live in a tribal sense, and it's just like one of the biggest towns near the human settlements, and that friggin' one of the only ones that actively does trade with humans.
Yeah. So either way, this was definitely a kind of just like another kind of one-off episode. Nothing like super tied to the main story outside of them like pushing the sibling narrative. Obviously, we got Ariane's sister contacting her at the end, and then we have the whole thing with Chiome and potentially her sibling and the ED there. But the episode was fine for what it was. Slave trades abound. That's part of this world. Ark and Ariane are going to do something about it. Any chance they get. Obviously, the other guy, Donka, was telling them to go check this out because these guys were, trading in not just elves and beast folk, but they were also taking humans, like his sister. So,
yeah, they were prioritizing elves and beast folk because they go for more, but they were literally just taking anyone they can get their hands on.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I guess since Ark and Ariane are probably making a reasonable dent in the slave trade, that they kind of have to, go after humans as well to make money. But yeah, this is one of those classic fantasy scenarios. We talked about it before, and it's as many of these small rings that Ark and Ariane take down, they're probably, a million more, like full on Michael Scott. They're just everywhere. So it's going to take big time things like last week with like local lords and stuff like that, making it like illegal and, much harder to get away with this, because most of the towns just kind of turn a blind eye to this. Hell, in, what was that place? The guy, the Beast Tamer from last season, like their empire, it's just completely legal to do that. It's not against anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the biggest things with dealing with slavery is getting the government to crack down on it and dealing with whatever the source of the payment is coming from. So
Yeah.
whoever it is that's buying the slaves. Because if the slavers don't have anyone to sell their slaves to, then it's no longer profitable for them to be going after slaves.
Right. Which is, how you beat scalpers and people who just buy up Pokemon cards, which is one of the latest things going on these days. If people would just stop buying scalp stuff, they would disappear. It's kind of the same thing with scammers. If people would just educate themselves and stop getting scammed, that kind of crap would die out. Because if it's not profitable, people aren't going to do it. So,
Forgetting, I don't remember what it was. It was like, might have been like Target or something like that. But a while back, they had essentially just kind of had it with freaking scalpers, and apparently like a bunch of their employees started basically like breaking the seals on packaging, so that way they couldn't effectively be resold.
Yeah, because then the seal was already broken. You know what I mean? I'm sure some of the more savvy douche canoes out there would like try to reseal it, but most collectors know what a reseal looks like compared to the original sealing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like printing your own money. Like a lot of that sealing tech is different for major corporations that ship stuff out. Then you can just like reseal with like some like a device that you can like do at home. You know what I mean? So it's pretty easy to tell when packaging has been ripped open or resealed or something like that. You know, it's going to be far more effort than any scammer / scalper / like douchey reseller is willing to put in. You know what I mean? There might be some of them that would go that extra mile, but anybody in that boat wants to do the bare minimum. You know what I mean? Like, I had one of those, I don't know. It doesn't really matter what state you're in, but we get them out here, especially in California, where they cold call you on like trying to sell you on solar and painting PG&E, in my case, as my power company, is like, you know, the worst. It's like, yes, I know most companies are shit, but what can we do about it? You are out here with your rehearsed sales pitch. You know what I mean? Hi, I'm here to tell you about this thing. And it's like, are you reading off a teleprompter? Like, a real salesman isn't going to do that. A real salesman is personable. Like our buddy Madhouse that could, you know, sell you on something without a script. You know what I mean? It's just like, you just had this script drilled into you. This is clearly a scam. You know what I mean? It's just like, this kind of thing is like, oh yeah, just, you know, we do this and we do that. It's just like, listen, man, I can do a cursory internet search on your company in 5 seconds and tell if it's legit. The last 10 people that came here, they didn't even have a website. You know what I mean? You had a shitty card printed and a number that probably goes nowhere, or to like a thing that like hyperlinks you asking for payment or something. You know what I mean? So it's like, it fascinates me that these people just like cold calls, just like, oh, all these people in your neighborhood. It's just like, I know the people in my neighborhood. I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So it's always funny where it's just like, I one of these days, I'm going to lose my patience with it. Because generally speaking, I kind of let it go because I don't want to be confrontational. But I've had it with people, because not only do I get 5 or 6 spam calls a day, now the text messages have rolled in, and it's just astronomically ridiculous. You know what I mean? And to have people come to your house and try to sell you on what is clearly a scam is ridiculous. Sometimes they're legit. There was one time that I looked into this company, and they're like, I think they're called Sunrun or something, and they're actually a real solar company that exists, and people like have them and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like 95% of the time they're scammers, but there are some that are legit that send like cold call people out. But if they have like the hyper rehearsed nonsense that sounds like they're just reading off of a script, you can probably rest assured that they're fake. And just it always baffles me that it's like, oh, these people show up when like our garage is open, so they know somebody's here, so we can't just ignore it. Like, I don't see it on like the security cameras, and like, you know, it popped up on my phone, and I was gonna mention, hey, there's like another gonna be sales guy out here, but it's just like, oh, the garage is open, fantastic. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. But again, I just hope that as time goes on here, it's something that and I've talked about this before too a little bit, is I really wish they would teach this kind of stuff in high school. This is like a course that should be taught in high school when it comes to like not getting scammed, you know, dealing with scalpers and, you know, scammers and stuff like that. It honestly should be a high school course. You know what I mean? There's plenty of stuff that you're taught in school, especially, I don't know how it is these days. I'm sure it's slightly different than when I was in school, you know, over a decade ago when I graduated from high school. But it's just stuff that you actually need in the real world. You know what I mean? So either way, random tangent aside, you know, this episode was fine for what it was, you know, just kind of setting the stage for the sibling stuff, continuing the slavery in this world stuff, totally fine. You know, it's going to be a problem. We have stuff like this couple over here from last time that are going to hopefully be attempting to change things in their regions, you know, stuff like that. But change takes a while, especially in this kind of era, you know what I mean? So by the end of the series, maybe we'll see some change, but generally speaking, stuff doesn't change overnight, unless there's like some major time skip or something like that. But this is one of the big prevalent things of this series, and like I said, it's a pretty interesting contrast because of how serious and dark a lot of this stuff is, obviously. But then you have Ark on the other side balancing it out with his just like childlike wonder of just, he's always been a gamer and he just loves everything about it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I hope that doesn't change because it is a great contrast for the super serious stuff. It makes this series interesting and more fun to watch because, yes, you could watch a dark, gritty series, if Ark wasn't like, the character that it is, but it's an interesting like balance of just, the comedy and lightheartedness with the like super gritty, dark stuff that is going on in the series. And the author has captured that pretty well. So I appreciate that for what it is. But, what else can really say about this episode? It was, another episode of Skeleton Knight, keeping pace with what it's been doing. Everything was fine. We had Ark pulling off a bunch of his moves again. That was cool. And, we also, I jokingly mentioned this, but probably fact check it. Bare minimum, at least 5% of the runtime of the series is Ark eating.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. We've had some pretty interesting random, just like a random tertiary thing of the series is like the random cuisine that we've seen. You know what I mean? We had like medieval pizza that last season. That was something that we talked about last season. I remember that was interesting. This is food infused with alcohol. That's something else. I mean, I know stuff like this does exist, and it's kind of like a very niche market in our world, but it's just like, that's not something you see every day, just so that was kind of interesting. And we got drunk Ariane again. We all know what happened last time. So, we got to do it a third time because, the rule of threes. We had the thing with Ponta's tail. That was a nice attention to detail after Ariane blew up the room. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that one time where Bakugo blew everybody up and everybody had like the fro and MHA and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a pretty solid attention to detail. But yeah, this was another classic example of drunk Ariane. And yes, let's keep in mind that people questioning like, how would Ponta get drunk that fast? She's tiny. That's how. Yeah. Body mass and size matters when it comes to alcohol consumption. You know what I mean? So, a little fox thing like this would probably get drunk off of one bite, especially since we saw Ariane get pretty plastered after a couple bites. You know what I mean? And she's a full-grown, adult person.
Which we know Ariane is a bit of a lightweight, but also animals also tend to process alcohol differently and are often more susceptible to it.
Right. So,
but yeah.
Gotta appreciate the comedy, so. Either way, again, it was another solid episode. I enjoyed it. I assume we'll be getting into the, the meat and potatoes of the season here shortly. We're just kind of having a couple, like, side quests and, like, allowing stuff to happen in the background, I guess, for pacing, that kind of thing. There's nothing really wrong with it. Got to fill time and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's still Skeleton Knight. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how I feel about the random cut in during the OP with a random clip from the episode, but that is what it is. You know what I mean?
I mean, this one was the most like on the nose one so far, but the previous ones at least were like out of context enough that like they were kind of entertaining, just purely on the out of context aspect of them.
Right. So, anyway, that's all I got for this one. Yeah, just keep it going. So, you got anything else for this one, Age?
Not much really actually happened in this one. We're just once again setting up for the incoming sibling dynamics because, like, we've been building up on the whole Ariane sister thing for a while now, and if we're getting more on Chiave's village, we will probably find out about the other friggin' members of the village.
Yeah.
And like you said, that the one guy is potentially her brother.
Yep. Anyway, excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond whoever you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the dojo. And this was Skeleton Knight, Season 2, Episode 3. So, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hello again, everyone. Victoria here. Don't forget about those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is always appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.